Hello, how's it going, everyone? My name is Andrew. This is Solid Rocket Future. My name is Andrew. This is Solid Rocket Future. We cover the most exciting parts of human spaceflight and rocketry. Today we're waiting for an Astra launch. Now, today is not a crewed launch, but it is an exciting one. Astra is a relatively new launch provider. Unfortunately, during their last launch attempt, they were not able to successfully deploy their payloads into orbit. They had two separate issues that impacted their ability to get to orbit. We'll talk a little bit about those. Um, Hey Daniel, how's it going? Yeah, so we're waiting for the stream to start here in the next few minutes. They look like they're starting up in about 3.5 minutes. But I'd like to take a couple minutes to just go over what's going to happen today, what we're going to see today. So let's take a look at Astra's Twitter. All right, so today is the second launch attempt of Astra launching the first satellites for a new contract. So they just announced a new contract with Spaceflight Inc. To deploy some payloads into orbit for them. Yesterday was their first attempt. However, they had some issues with weather, specifically lightning. So they had to push the launch off to today. So when the stream starts up in the next few minutes, we should start to see what the weather looks like today and how everything's going to go. Launch window opens at 9:22 PDT or 12:22 Eastern. The official live stream is hosted by NASASpaceflight, and we are lucky enough to be able to use that stream here today. So we'll be watching that stream and providing some commentary. So this is just a picture here of the top of the Astra rocket here. So this is just a tweet from them yesterday. Due to weather, they're now targeting today, March 15th at 9:22. If you watched the stream yesterday, it was really interesting that they even got as far as they did in the countdown. It looked really rainy there for a while. It started to open up a little bit. It started to be a little bit clearer, but they still have those issues with lightning strikes. So that is why we're going for today. Now, I was talking about this a minute ago. Astra, on their last launch attempt, didn't make it to orbit. They had a couple issues. They had two separate issues. They posted this tweet after their last launch. We experienced an issue during today's flight that resulted in the payloads not being delivered to orbit. We are deeply sorry to our customers, NASA, and the small satellite teams. More information will be provided after we complete a data review. So, kind of surprisingly, they were able to get to a root cause and apparently fix these issues in a short time span. This was only February 10th. Today is March 15th, and they're going for another launch. So they must feel pretty confident that they found the issues and they fixed those issues. So time will tell. They then posted that they expect a safe return to launch following a complete investigation with the FAA. And then they posted this blog here. If you want to learn more about what they found, you can read this article here on astra.com. This is their official website, astra.com. So they got this blog post about what exactly happened. But basically, there was two major issues. Here's a nice, great picture of the Astra rocket that we'll be seeing launch. Of course, that was from a previous launch. So the two issues that Astra ran into: one, the payload fairing did not completely separate. So that's the nose cone that encapsulates the satellites, keeps it safe during launch. Those are supposed to separate and get kind of out of the way of the rocket so that eventually those satellites can be deployed out in space. But those didn't completely separate according to plan, unfortunately. In addition to that, there was a software issue that caused the thrusters on the second stage to not work, specifically the thrust vector controls, which is what kind of changes the direction that in orientation that the second stage is facing. And because that failed, the second stage is kind of tumbled out of control, and unfortunately, they did lose those satellites. So it's surprising to me that they think that they're confident after such a short period of time of root cause investigation and implementing a fix. But that being said, that they very well might have done their full due diligence here. I'm really excited to see this launch because I really want to see them get to orbit again. They got to orbit a couple launches ago. This is, I believe, their seventh launch, seventh or eighth. And I really want to see them succeed. It would be really great to see Astra become a reliable way to get to space for U.S. companies. So we're really backing them, and we're really excited to see what's going to happen today. You may remember that on the last launch attempt, it was the first time Astra was launching from Cape Canaveral, Florida. Now today they are not launching from Florida. They are launching from where they have previously launched most of their launches before, and that's from the Pacific Spaceport Complex in Alaska. This is on an island off the southern coast of Alaska. This is a picture of it, a Google Maps view of it here. Not much going on here. Get the launch pad right here, but if we zoom out, we can see that this is on kind of the tip of this big island, and that's off of the south coast of Alaska. So a really cool launch location. If you had the ability to go there and see this thing with your own eyes, I can imagine it being absolutely beautiful. The cool thing about this is the sun is still down in Alaska, and it will be for the first few minutes of stream. Sun is supposed to come up at 8:24 a.m. local time, so that's another 30-something minutes from now. So let's check in to see. Okay, so we're still waiting for the official live stream to start. So once that starts, I will get that full screen for everyone, and I will have everybody. I'll have the audio coming through, so we get a great view of what's happening at the launch pad as soon as we get that shot. In the meantime, thanks so much for everybody that's joining today to see this launch. And if you have any questions, please feel free to put those questions in the chat. I'll do my best to answer those. Any comments at all, just feel free. I love any interaction I have with those who are watching and those who are interested in rockets. So let me know where you're watching from. Thanks for checking this out so far. We should be getting started on the stream here real shortly. In the meantime, while we're waiting for them to start, I do want to bring you up to speed with some other exciting space news. So, we all know about the Saturn V rocket that is that has brought astronauts to the moon back in the Apollo era. The Saturn V was a really awesome rocket, but as we know, it hasn't launched since the Apollo era. It is not used anymore. It is not a functioning rocket. We know that NASA built the space shuttle and used the space shuttle to deliver astronauts and payloads up to Earth orbit. Most of the time low Earth orbit, and it did some Hubble servicing missions. Had a really awesome long lifespan there with, unfortunately, a couple issues. But that was kind of the last we saw of an official NASA rocket when the space shuttle was retired. So the next thing to come now is the SLS, or the Space Launch System. Now you can think of this as the successor of a space shuttle, but it's actually kind of more of the successor of the Saturn V, because this rocket is designed to bring astronauts back to the moon and eventually Mars. So if we take a look here, the first SLS is built and it's ready to go. So this is a picture of it in the Vehicle Assembly Building, that big building that we all know and love, that big white building with the NASA meatball. This thing's fully assembled, it has those solid rocket boosters attached to the side, and this will be rolling out of the Vehicle Assembly Building in 2 days from now, or on Thursday. So yeah, 2 days from now. So that's going to be really exciting to see that thing launch, or to see that thing roll out to the launch pad that hasn't been used in years and years. And just see it sitting on that launch pad. This is a big, big, big rocket. It's the biggest thing we've seen. With the exception of Starship. Starship hasn't launched yet either. But whichever one of these rockets gets off the ground first, it's going to be the biggest rocket we see fly in a long, long time. So what it's going to do is go under a full wet dress rehearsal, which means they're going to do everything that they would do for a real launch up till T-0. And then, of course, they're not going to launch it quite yet. They're just going to make sure that all of that went according to plan. They're going to make sure all the tests went well and that the rocket is in good shape so that they can schedule an actual launch date in a couple months. As long as everything goes according to plan, we should see a launch date sometime in the next couple months, which is really, really exciting. So definitely keep your eye on social medias and YouTube channels. We may be hosting some coverage on it as well. So super exciting stuff. If you have any questions about that as well, please feel free to ask. Let's check in and see if, so the official live stream hasn't started yet. Should be starting any moment. Let's just double check on the Twitter accounts, make sure we're still go for launch. We have no updates, which is a great sign that we should still be good for launch. Yeah, so we'll bring you full screen on here when the launch coverage starts. Thanks everybody for checking out the stream so far. Oh, here we go. We're starting here. Let me bring the audio down so you don't have to get this advertising audio. And let me go full screen for you. So when this stream starts, we will get an introduction from the NASA Spaceflight team and the Astra team. I will be providing commentary over any activities that we're seeing on the stream today, but this should be getting started here momentarily. If there's any issues with video or audio, please let me know in the comments.
We have liftoff. Propulsion continues to be normal.
RCP chamber pressure looks good.
Doubling up. Roger roll, Atlantic.
Water towers can fly! Yes!
Tango Delta nominal.
Fighting outside feed off.
Bring in, SCE off.
Yikes. You bet. Concur. We don't need any more of these.
Hello everyone and welcome back to live Astra launch coverage. You are looking at a live view of LV0009 out on the launch pad in Kodiak, Alaska. Astra is just under 30 minutes away from conducting today's launch attempt with the goal of delivering multiple payloads to orbit for Spaceflight Incorporated. My name is Thomas Burkhart, News Director for NASA Spaceflight, and I'm joined once again by Carolina Grossman, the Director of Product Management at Astra. Carolina, thank you so much for joining me again. How you doing?
Great, ready for another launch?
So as you saw there, the sun has started to rise at the spaceport in Alaska. Looking like a much better day for launch so far. Once they provide an update about the weather, we'll make sure that we bring you into that. But yeah, it looks like a nice day for launch. As you can see, we'll go full screen here. You see all that, what looks like to be vapor or clouds coming off that rocket. That is a great indication that the rocket is fueled and is ready to go pretty much for launch. So that's a lot of the fuel from the vehicle boiling off, and they're constantly topping it off to make sure it's ready for T-0.
09, that frosty white color indicates that propellant has been loaded onto the vehicle, and the teams are not tracking any issues prior to launch.
That's good news that they are not tracking any issues. So that shot is beautiful there. You can see that there's not a lot of cloud layer from this angle above the rocket, which is good. The teams did indicate that there's not a lot of concern about rain on this rocket, but you know, yesterday the issue was with lightning strikes, and I don't think we're going to have any issues with the possibility of lightning strikes based on what we're seeing here. So we're T-minus 27 minutes away from launch. The teams said that they're working no issues, which is great. So technically the rocket is in good shape. Everybody is pretty much good to go at this point. They just got to continue working down on that timeline and making each step along the way and making sure everything's good to go. So good news so far. Good news so far. Andrew is letting us know that AV is looking good. Thanks, Andrew. I appreciate that update. The Astra team is targeting the beginning of the launch window. So that's 12:22 Eastern Time. So that's good news. This is not an instantaneous launch window, so for any reason, if they do run into an issue, they do have a few minutes to try to figure out if they can resolve that issue prior to having to call a scrub. I believe it's about a 27-minute long window, which is good. That gives them some time to investigate any issues that may come up. Lately, we're kind of used to seeing those instantaneous launch windows, which means you get 1 single second that you can launch. There's a lot of reasons why that would be. Mostly what orbit you're trying to get to, if you're trying to rendezvous with anything in orbit. But this thing is going to a sun-synchronous orbit, which is actually pretty rare. But being closer to the poles is actually a good thing for sun-synchronous orbital insertion. So this launch pad being up in Alaska is a benefit for them in this case. Sun-synchronous orbits are pretty cool. Basically, if I understand correctly, if you have a if you have a satellite in sun-synchronous orbit, when it goes over a point on Earth, let's use Chicago for an example, every time it goes over Chicago, it will be in the same position relative to the sun every time. So if you're imaging Chicago, every time you get over Chicago and take a picture, it's going to have the same sun angle, the same shadows and everything, aside from clouds. But really cool, interesting orbital insertion that they're going for today. So let's check in and see what the teams are saying.
A launch services provider, and 2 of the payloads that we'll highlight are the Near Space Launch S4 crossover payload, which is going to remain attached to Astra's second stage. It's a technology demonstration mission which will test a prototype payload host platform that can be used to test future payloads, and also has instrumentation for measuring radiation and plasma density in space. And so it is attached to the second stage, but operates completely independently and will operate for a few weeks following the launch. And the Portland State Aerospace Society's ORSAT-0, which is a fully open source CubeSat satellite system built from scratch by students at Portland State University. It's Oregon's first satellite, and it's a 1U CubeSat that is providing flight heritage today for a modular, expandable, open source, and education-friendly ORSAT bus, which has a global climate science and STEM outreach mission. So some very exciting payloads aboard today's Spaceflight Astra-1 mission.
And those payloads are bound to a sun.
Look at that shot. Imagine being there and seeing this thing launch with that backdrop. Absolutely beautiful. Oh, Lou agrees. Lou says that looks dope. No, I agree. That would be such an amazing place to see a rocket launch. That's insane. Those mountains and everything. So cool. If you've never seen a rocket launch, you got to go see one live. It's really an amazing experience. Poll is coming back, and everybody thinks today is the launch day. Everybody thinks today is the day for Astra to launch. So thanks for voting in that poll. And I agree. I think this thing's going off the pad today, and I think they're going to deploy into orbit today. They're talking about weather. Let's tune in.
Yesterday, what are the weather items that the teams are looking at for today?
Right. So yesterday we were keeping an eye on triggered lightning, which is due to electrical fields in the atmosphere that can cause lightning to strike the vehicle as it moves at very high speed through the atmosphere. Today, the upper level winds are the item that we are tracking, but as of this time, they are not a concern for launch.
You got a gorgeous view there of the sunrise out in Kodiak. Just 22 minutes to go before launch, and the skies look beautiful. Should get some great views of the rocket as it ascends today.
That's another cool camera angle, kind of with the trees in the foreground, kind of hidden cam. It's pretty cool. This is a relatively small rocket. I think it's just over 11 meters compared to 70 meters or more for the Falcon 9, which we see launch so often nowadays. I do like to mention that this is an expendable rocket. This is not reusable. A lot of the new rockets that we're seeing nowadays and the rockets that are currently in development are fully reusable or have reusable elements to it. Astra rockets are not reusable. But I do like to often talk about how one of Astra's competitors, Rocket Lab, originally designed a smaller rocket, kind of like this one that we see here, and it was never designed, sorry if you hear those sirens in the background, it was never designed for reusability. But Rocket Lab eventually decided that they wanted to try to get their Electron rocket to be reusable. So they've started those testing. They expect that to be happening. I think they ran into some issues with those tests recently. But it's cool to kind of see that shift in mindset and try to get those expendable rockets into a more reusable strategy. So I'm wondering if Astra, if they continue to succeed as a launch provider, will investigate similar strategies as well. But I also like to talk about the new Rocket Lab Neutron rocket that they're developing. If you haven't checked that out, check out Rocket Lab's website and see what they're working on. The Neutron rocket's going to be really cool. It's really unique and different. I definitely recommend checking that out. We are T-minus 20 minutes from launch. Everything is still looking good. We continue to see those vapors come off of the rocket, which is a good sign. Beautiful shot from the Alaska launch pad. If anybody has any questions for me, please feel free to let me know at any time.
To the launch site in Kodiak, along with its ground support equipment and things like that, as well as the red team out there, who's of course preparing the rocket before launch and operating the launch site. So we're coming to you from California, and today's launch is out from Kodiak Island, Alaska.
Yes, that's right.
That's cool. So it sounds like mission control is in California. There is a small team at the launch pad itself, obviously to prepare the rocket and to prepare the pad into anything that they need to do out there, but it sounds like a lot of the operations happen from California. You can see kind of the upper half of that rocket looks real frosty and the bottom half doesn't. That's just based on where the fuel tanks are and what fuel is being held in different parts of that rocket. So at some point they'll probably show a kind of an exploded view of what this rocket looks like inside. And it'll show at the back there's one tank, at the front there's another tank, and the bottom part, that fuel that's held in the bottom part, is not chilled. It is kind of ambient temperature, but the upper part is a chilled fuel. So this is a picture of the mission control, a relatively small team. And Andrew is asking, what did Astra find was the problem with LV0008? So that was the last launch attempt that Astra had, and there's two different issues they found. One, they found that there was an incorrect firing order in the events that need to happen for that payload fairing to come apart. So because those didn't happen in the right order, the payload fairing kind of got stuck and didn't open up. And, when that payload fairing opens up, the satellite can then be deployed out into space. The second issue was a software issue that is an important part of the vector control system, which is what kind of tells the rocket which direction to face and its orientation. And because it had that issue, that system failed, and the second stage tumbled out of control. So it sounds like that they were able to address those issues, and they're confident that everything is fixed in a way that they're actually, in just over a month after that failure, they're ready to go again and they're ready to launch. So really exciting to see them back on the pad today. And I'm hoping like heck that this thing goes off and is a successful deployment to orbit. Thanks for the question.
Stage. Right below that, the ambient temperature kerosene, which is of course not as cold, although Alaska is pretty cold all on its own. And you can see the transporter erector, the strong back, right next to the rocket that is also venting its lines nominally.
Right, so if you see that kind of truss structure that's on the left side of the rocket in this shot, that is, so before that they bring the rocket vertical on the launch pad, the rocket sits horizontally on that structure. That is brought out to the launch pad. They eventually bring that rocket vertical using that truss structure. And you'll see all these hoses and tubes attached. Those are umbilicals that deliver fuel, power, and data to the rocket. So shortly before launch, within just a couple seconds before launch or during T-0, you'll see those umbilicals actually disconnect from the launch vehicle. So that's how it gets all the stuff it needs to go through the T-0 countdown. And that truss structure probably actually falls back even more at T-0, I would imagine. They are discussing the Astra store right now, and I'd like to bring you into that because some of those proceeds are going to support Ukrainian causes.
Part of it is we're taking the same approach to iteration that we do across the rest of our culture. And we only have a few products available right now. We're pretty limited, and we are looking to learn the kind of merchandise that folks are most interested in purchasing. So again, shop.astra.com is where you can buy cool items like the hoodie that Thomas is modeling today. And as a special note, for the first 2 weeks that the store is open, we are donating 100% of all of the profits to efforts supporting Ukraine, including UNICEF, the World Central Kitchen, and the International Committee of the Red Cross.
You know, that's really, really awesome to hear. It's important to have some way to give to those causes. A lot of people, you know, if people can just donate straight to those causes, it's really amazing, and the money goes a lot further that way. But if somebody's not going to donate but does want to buy some space merch and part of that profit will go over to Ukraine, you know, I think that's a good thing, and I think that's a good step that Astra is doing there. So I do commend them for making that decision. But if you were thinking about going and buying some Astra merch, but instead you can afford to just donate direct to those causes, I do recommend that. You can see at the top of the rocket there's a triangle. That is the logo for today's mission. And the mission, of course, today is for Spaceflight Inc. Astra and Spaceflight Inc. did just announce a new contract for delivering Spaceflight Inc. customers' payloads to orbit. So really, really cool to see these reoccurring contracts for Astra. And if they continue to successfully bring payloads to orbit, it's important to have these reoccurring customers for them to succeed. The more ways we have to get to space, the better. So I can't say it enough. We want to see them succeed here today during this launch. We're really quickly approaching T-0. We're under 14 minutes away. We should start hearing some status updates from Mission Control. I'll make sure I bring you into the audio for any updates about weather, the T-0 countdown, and them checking on range. It's important to make sure that there's no kind of civilian vehicles in the ocean areas around where this thing's going to launch to make sure everybody's safe. So we should be hearing about all that stuff really shortly here. Are we getting an updated launch time?
They're just setting the 16:22 UTC time.
We are setting our T0 time to the opening of the launch window, which is 9:22 a.m. Pacific and 16:22 UTC. Okay,
that is very good news. That means the teams continue to see no issues. They're not working any issues and have no concerns about the weather. So this is a 27-minute launch window, but right now they said that everything looks good to try to launch at that at the beginning of that 27-minute window, which is 12:22 Eastern Time. At the bottom of the launch vehicle, you see kind of a purge of this vapor right now. We do see that with this Astra launch vehicle. A lot of times when you see these purges happening, people ask themselves, you know, are they defueling the rocket, or are they purging the rocket because something went wrong? Not necessarily, especially in this case. We see that a lot with this Astra rocket. It's just an indication that that fueling is continuing to proceed and everything is going according to plan. The closer we get to T-0, kind of the more ways you're going to see vapor coming off this vehicle, the more smoke you see coming out of that truss and out of the bottom of the engines, actually.
So we have a lot of different ways that we test and vet our system for safety before flight.
There you go. At just under 12 minutes to go, we are coming up on the business end of today's countdown. We'll definitely want to listen in for the go, no-go poll, which will come up in about a little over a minute for now. And
no-go poll coming up, an important part of the countdown. So we should get confirmation from all of the Astra teams if everything is looking good for launch today. So that's always exciting to hear. We'll probably see a live view from Mission Control during that time. Astra does have some really great cameras set up for these launch streams. We get great views of Mission Control. We have great views of the rocket, including some cameras from inside that payload fairing, which I'm surprised they haven't shown yet. I do expect them to show that. They actually have cameras inside that payload fairing, so when the fairing disengages and comes apart, we should get a view of that live. There's Mission Control. Let's listen in.
Please enable Igniter 1 spark test.
Spark test.
Igniter 1 spark test. Active.
VB1 first stage power.
VB1 first stage power active.
VB1 upper stage power.
VB1 upper stage power active.
VB1 turn on off PDBs.
VB1 turn on off PDBs active.
Water 1 water system.
Water 1 water system active.
Tango, at this time, please activate launch machine.
Launch machine.
These are all good steps, indicating that the countdown is going according to plan.
Tango on countdown, launch machine is active.
Please toggle
under 10
lock
minutes.
stopping.
Lock stopping set to true.
This takes us into step 144. This is the Astra poll for tank pressurization and launch. After this point, any system issue must be called as hold on countdown net. If there are no concerns for flight, call go. Otherwise, call no go. Red lead.
Red lead is go.
FTS.
FTS is go.
Delphin.
Dolphin go.
Ether.
Ether is go.
Odin.
Odin is go.
Inco.
Inco is go.
Ace.
Go.
Launcher.
Launcher is go.
Orbit.
Go.
Booster.
Booster is no-go until we finish lock stopping.
Okay, that means we're stopping.
Not sure what this means for the countdown, but
Very well then, boosters go.
We're good.
GNC.
GNC is go.
FAO.
FAO is go.
CDH.
CDH is go.
Tango.
Tango's go.
Safety.
Safety is go.
Flight is go. Tango and AV1 manage polling, toggle do only ground.
Do only ground polling set to true.
Tango, let me know when you're ready to load sequences.
Beautiful colors coming up on the sunrise.
703 Victor 3.
Igniter sequence 703 Victor 3 slot 0. Good load.
Alpha 887 Victor 1.
Engine Alpha 887 Victor 1 slot 0. Good load.
Bravo 887 Victor 1.
Engine Bravo 887 Victor 1 slot 0. Good load.
Charlie 887 Victor 1.
Engine Charlie 887 Victor 1 slot 0. Loading. Good load.
Delta 887 Victor 1.
Engine Delta 887 Victor 1 slot 0. Successful load.
Echo 887 Victor 1.
Engine Echo 887 Victor 1 slot 0. Successful load.
Ether, please provide.
Ether sequence 883 Victor 4, please.
Ether sequence 883 Victor 4. Kick in the door. Slot 0. Good load.
Tango and AV1 manage polling, set us back into do both ground and guidance polling mode.
AB1 manage pulling, do both ground and guidance pulling, set to true.
Delphin, confirm GSE igniter system is ready for launch.
GSC igniter system ready.
Tango, verify vehicle looks ready for launch aside from tank press.
Confirmed, LOX tank topping.
All right. All good signs, all good signs. We're T-minus 6 minutes and 20 seconds to launch. From what I understand, I believe what they just did was load the instructions onto the launch vehicle based on the current conditions. This is kind of speculation on my part about their T-minus 0 countdown and these steps. Wow, look at all of that fog at the base of the vehicle. That is insane. That looks so cool. But yeah, the way I understand it is I believe they make sure that the final instructions are loaded onto the launch vehicle to make sure that the performance metrics and everything are kind of like performance charts. If you know how to, if you're a pilot, I think they get a look at the conditions and make sure that the instructions loaded onto the vehicle for performance of the vehicle is right. I don't know. That's kind of a guess, but I think it makes sense. Look at this shot. That is beautiful.
Let's take a look at the mission profile for today's ascent. Carolina?
All right, so starting from the bottom at T0, the first stage engines will light and we will have liftoff. A few seconds later, the vehicle will begin its pitch over maneuver. And at about 1 minute and 10 seconds, we will reach max Q, which is the point of maximum aerodynamic pressure on the vehicle. And the vehicle will continue to move through first stage flight up until 3 minutes, at which point we'll have main engine cutoff, or MECO. And then a few things happen in pretty quick succession. The fairing will separate, the stages will separate, and then at 3 minutes and 15 seconds after liftoff, the upper stage engine will ignite. And we will run for about 5.5 minutes before second engine cutoff, or SECO. And very shortly thereafter, we will have our payload deployment for the Spaceflight ASTRA-1 mission.
And we are just over 4 minutes away from the beginning of that ascent profile. Again, this is the launch attempt for the Spaceflight Incorporated Astra-1 mission on Astra's Rocket 3 vehicle, LV0009, from Kodiak Island, Alaska.
So that's great news. Everything is looking good. We're at T-minus 4 minutes, so this thing is launching in the next 4 minutes and 3 seconds. Relatively short deployment for this vehicle, so we will stick with you through the entire mission of this Astra launch vehicle. Eventually when the satellites get to orbit, they're going to do their own thing, but up until deployment, it's only about under 9 minutes, so we'll be with you for the full deployment cycle here.
Control room, if you require RF data once the vehicle leaves the pad, be prepared to switch over your Grafana pages. FSO, flight on countdown, be prepared to issue option when rocket IIP marker passes option enable gate, calling out.
Lou thinks this thing's going to happen today, and I do too. I do too. We're going to see a launch here in the next 3 minutes and 9 seconds.
T-minus
3 minutes.
3 minutes and counting.
Reminder to all that any 3-word hold from here on out will be an immediate abort regardless of source.
Two and a half minutes to go, all on track.
T-minus 2 minutes and 5 seconds.
2 minutes.
The rocket is all the way down at the bottom there, that real small rocket compared to this beautiful landscape we see behind it. Absolutely amazing.
And there you got the Astra team watching live from Alameda, California. Looking forward to today's launch, just over 90 seconds away.
Let's go, Astra.
90
Get
seconds.
to orbit today.
Ace, at this time, start your PSD recordings and downrange ground station recordings.
Done.
Sixty
T-minus 1
seconds,
minute.
vehicles on
60
internal
seconds.
control.
Less than 60 seconds ago, the rocket has taken control of the countdown and everything is on track for liftoff.
Right as this rocket lifts off the pad, you'll see those umbilicals disconnect, and that thing's going to shoot right off the pad into the sky.
Upper stage tanks at pre-liftoff. First stage fuel tank pressurizing.
30 seconds.
30 seconds. 20. 15. 10. Water on. 8. 7. 6.
Let's go,
5,
Astra.
4. 3.
First motion.
First. Vehicle has cleared the tower.
LV0009, it's on its way to space. Our next objective is max Q in just under a minute.
Gorgeous liftoff views from Kodiak, Alaska. T plus 25 seconds, looking good.
Everything looking good so far on this launch.
T plus 45, still looking good. You can see the vehicle pitching downrange south from Kodiak, Alaska towards orbit.
Somebody's excited in the background. That's awesome. I love to hear these teams get all
And
pumped
there you got
up
an
about
onboard
this.
view of on the first stage looking down towards the engine section. And a beautiful
Beautiful
contrail
looking
as the
launch
vehicle
so far.
ascends towards space.
Now, all eyes on this rocket. As soon as second stage kicks on,
Vehicle is now
that's
through
when
the area
everybody's
of
gonna be
maximum
watching.
dynamic pressure, or max Q, the point of maximum stress on the vehicle. Everything looking good.
We have about 90 seconds remaining in the first stage portion of the flight.
First stage has been looking pretty good on this
Coming up
rocket
will
the
be
last
main
few
engine
launches.
cutoff, or MECO, which is the shutdown of the 5 first stage engines prior to stage separation.
Fingers crossed for second stage.
And you can see the plume from the first stage expanding as the rocket gets higher in the atmosphere with less atmospheric pressure.
T plus 2 minutes into the flight of LV0009.
Still got a
Looking
great
beautiful.
tracking shot from the launch site in Kodiak.
Good tracking downrange.
Pretty good audio from that that launch as well.
And in just about 30 seconds, we have a string of milestones all in quick succession. We'll have the first stage engines shut down, main engine cutoff, and then the fairing separation and stage separation and upper stage ignition steps will happen in very quick succession.
Safety can't confirm. Option received. Option received.
All right.
Vehicles left the gate.
There's fairing
Payload fairing
separation.
deployment looks
MECO.
good. Separation, rather.
Stage separation.
We
Stage
have
set.
SEP.
And upper stage engine ignition. cheers coming from the
Looking
Astra
good.
team as a significant portion of our flight milestones have been accomplished. We have about 5 minutes of second stage flight before our payloads are deployed.
And just a great view of the Earth from space on that
Look
upper
at
stage
that.
camera on your right. Still seeing the first stage camera looking up at the upper stage on the left. So cool camera views.
So we're getting really low frame rates here on this video, but it looks really amazing that the Earth right there, and you can kind of see where the sun hasn't risen yet. Beautiful shots. And at this point, Astra has made it much further than they did on their last mission. So this is really amazing to see. So far, they look to be on the way of a completely successful mission, which is such an important thing for the future of Astra and the future of launch providers in the US. This is awesome.
Over 4 minutes into the flight, everything looking good so far. Upper stage is accelerating horizontally towards orbit. Needing to achieve that horizontal velocity to stay in a sun-synchronous orbit, again aiming for an altitude of 525 kilometers today. Looks like now we've got that telemetry updating on the bottom right hand of your screen. Over 300 kilometers in altitude right now. And a little under 4.5 kilometers per second of velocity.
So they're aiming for above 500 kilometers in altitude. And just to give you a comparison, the ISS orbits at around 400 kilometers. So this is going quite a bit higher than the ISS.
Team in our factory here in Alameda that's gathered around our big screen Jumbotron. As we enjoy the second stage portion of flight, we want to take a shout out to all of the team and all of the families and loved ones who have helped make today's launch possible.
T plus 5.5 minutes, still looking good. About 3 more minutes left in the burn of today's flight. And another gorgeous onboard view of Earth.
Vehicle's now passing Hawaii.
I do want to show you one interesting factor here. Now, this is not a finance channel, and we do not offer any financial advice, but there has been an indication that investors are happy with what they saw here on today's Astra launch. We're up over approaching 8% for the day here. So, you know, of course, the mission is not over. It is far from over. The remainder of the milestones here have to be accomplished to make sure that this is a successful mission. Nice view of the, on the left-hand side, we see which direction the rocket is headed and that zone of safety, basically. So you'll see that thick white line slowly keep moving southwest, which is an indication of where this rocket is headed. We are almost just seeing the last little bit of the edge of Earth there in that shot.
We're 6 kilometers per second of velocity now and coming up on 500 kilometers altitude.
I think we're less than a minute away from final payload deployment here.
Less than a minute to go until SECO, or second engine cutoff.
This is all good. This is all good.
And shortly after SECO, second engine cutoff, we will have the deployment of some of the payloads aboard today's mission of Spaceflight Astra-1. There is one payload that will remain attached to the upper stage and will begin its mission after SECO as well.
What is that shot? That was a beautiful shot that they just had. Is that still from stage 1? It can't be. Or, I don't know.
Coming up on that second engine cutoff milestone next.
So I'm hoping we get a view of the satellites
Seco.
being deployed here.
And there you have it, second engine cutoff, SECO confirmed.
Look at that shot.
We'll be looking for the callouts for the payloads that are being deployed next.
Mission control. Waiting to hear that deployment was successful. Let's wait and see. Shortly after we get confirmation of successful deployment, we will be winding down the stream in just a few minutes after. But still plenty of time for any questions that you may have, so please feel free to drop those in the chat.
There you have the trajectory right down the middle for today's ascent, and we're standing by to hear a word of payload separation.
Just continuing to stand by, waiting for an update from mission control. In this case, it should not be assumed
We're at
that
T
silence...
plus 11 minutes after liftoff.
It should not be assumed that
We've
silence
completed
is a signal for good or bad.
first and second stage portions of flight.
No indication that anything is anything but nominal. Probably just checking data to make sure it looks like things deployed successfully. They also have, I think, known loss of signal areas in Earth orbit, so it's possible that they're going through an area right now where they're waiting for telemetry to come back. So I think the teams are just kind of analyzing, seeing what's going on, and making sure everything's looking good. And at some point, we should hear whether or not the payload deployment was successful. Here's a nice shot of the pad with no rocket. Rocket has gone.
Jack, Alaska. We're just 12 minutes ago. LV0009 lifted off.
Looking like it's going to be a nice day there in Kodiak. If you're just joining us,
T plus 13 minutes. We're still awaiting confirmation that the payloads have deployed successfully.
that was going to be my update. If you're just joining us, Astra did successfully get to orbit. Second stage looked like...
Otherwise, it appears all other
outside,
mission
so
events were nominal during the LV0009 flight this morning.
second stage performed well, which was a concern based on the last flight that they had. Payload fairings separated nominally. Everything looked great there. So just waiting for teams to confirm that the actual satellites have separated from that upper stage and were placed in the appropriate orbit. While we're waiting for to hear more information, I do want to let you know that here on our YouTube channel, we do cover these exciting launches. We're talking new launch vehicles like Astra, Rocket Lab, when SLS has any activity, Starship, any crewed launches, all of that we're going to cover here live on the YouTube channel. If you just can't get enough of your rocket coverage, we do have additional launches over on our Twitch channel. Those are the kind of more regular, quote-unquote, everyday launches like Starlink.
And thanks for standing by with us. We are still awaiting confirmation that our payload deployment has been successful. About 6 minutes ago, we completed.
They're still standing by to hear. But yeah, if you just can't get enough launch coverage, check out our Twitch as well. But if you only want to be notified about the big activity, the big launches, YouTube's your spot. This is the channel to go to. Really appreciate a like and subscribe, and however you would like to support us, just watching is enough. So thank you so much. Really appreciate that. And if you need a link to our socials, you can find them all on our website at rocketfuture.org. That's rocketfuture.org. Yeah, and we have a Discord as well. We hang out, talk about space, talk about other random stuff, and you get notifications for live streams there as well. So love to have you in the Discord as well. But any of that information that you need, you can just find that at rocketfuture.org. But standing by, waiting for an update from Mission Control.
Looking again there at our trajectory for today's flight. A nominal first stage and second stage flight of Astra's LV0009.
Again, we have no indication that there's no indication that anything necessarily went wrong here. They may just be confirming that everything is looking good. We should not assume one way or the other that anything happened here. I do want to show you one thing, and that, again, I'm going to bring you back and show you, again, this is not a financial channel. I'm not offering any financial advice, but it seems like people that are invested in Astra are concerned about the kind of delay in communications here. Again, I'm just speculating, not based on where this is going to go, but just based on a drop. I would imagine this has something to do with people being concerned that they haven't provided an update on deployment of the payloads. But that's entirely a guess. Really interesting to see the market react to what's happening here. Lou asks, is Astra public? Yep, Astra went public sometime last year, I believe. But they are new to the market. Actually, yeah, last year. I wasn't expecting it to take this long for that confirmation, so, you know, the longer that we wait, the more questions that arise. But that doesn't, again, there's no reason speculating what happened here. So we're just going to wait and hear from teams. And hopefully everything is looking good. We are T plus 19 minutes. Launch was 19 minutes and 20 seconds ago. We got some comms from... We just had one comment from Mission Control. I don't know. It wasn't really relevant. Oh,
and thank you so much for joining us for this morning's LV0009 launch broadcast. We're at T plus about 20 minutes from the launch. About 10 minutes ago, LV0009 successfully made it to orbit after a nominal first stage and second stage flight. We have not yet received any information about the payloads being successfully deployed. The vehicle was far downrange of our telemetry dish, which is as expected, and so it may be a little while before we have an update on that, and we will provide that update on Twitter as soon as we have it. But for now, we're going to wrap up today's broadcast after a successful ride to orbit for Astra's LV0009.
Yeah, just stay tuned for that final confirmation step. That'll be all over Astra's.
All right, so that was kind of based on what I was thinking as well. So just because we haven't heard anything doesn't mean anything went wrong. As they stated, they are far downrange from their antennas that receive the data back from the payloads, and this could be as simple as them not getting that data back, and maybe they have to wait until the orbit is a little bit further across the Earth until they pick up another signal, or a signal from another antenna. It is also possible that something went wrong. We really don't know, and there's no use guessing. Lou says, makes me curious how a rocket company does things different when they answer their shareholders. Absolutely a great question. It's really interesting to see all these space companies go public last year and this year. We got Rocket Lab obviously, Astra, and then a ton of other, like Redwire, and all these different companies went public last year. And it's really interesting to see. And it's going to continue to be really interesting over the next 5 to 10 years to see how all this stuff does and how the industry does. But yeah, so that's going to wrap up our coverage for now. We'll post an update on our Twitter when we hear. Obviously, check into Astra's Twitter. I'm sure you'll see the update from them the quickest, and I'll do my best to try to provide a retweet or a comment shortly after they provide an update. I'll give you another 30 seconds or a minute to ask any questions, but I do just want to say I can't even explain to you how thankful I am for anybody that watched the stream today or commented or interacted in any way. It means so much to me. This is going to be a big year for this channel, and we're really excited to get into these streams. We're going to be down in Starbase, Texas in just a couple days, providing a bunch of coverage from there. So definitely follow along and see what we're doing. We really appreciate all the support. Again, my name is Andrew. This is Solid Rocket Future. We cover the most exciting parts of human spaceflight and rocketry. So that was awesome. Andrew says, thanks, Lambda. Thanks, man. Thanks, Titan. We got our code names here. I'll tell you guys some point about a big project we're going on, and a big project we're doing. But you'll have to stay tuned for that update. Awesome. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. I'll talk to everybody soon. And in the meantime, check out rocketfuture.org for any updates you want. Lou, thanks for the comment, and I'm excited. See ya.